What if I told you that the next 12 months could determine whether your financial future looks like freedom or a disaster you never saw coming? Not because of a recession, not because of inflation, not because politicians are arguing again, but because the very foundation of your money, the US dollar, is entering the most dangerous era in its history. Sounds dramatic? Good. Because what you're about to hear is not drama. It's data. It's patterns. It's the part of the story the news will only cover after it's too late. And before you roll your eyes thinking, bro, the dollar has survived everything. Chill. Let me warn you, Act 3 contains a trigger event almost no one is talking about. And when it happens, the shift will be fast, irreversible, and historic. Before we begin, take a breath. Because once you know what's coming, you'll never look at your wallet the same way again. The problem: how America built a money machine that's now overheating. The illusion of strength. For most people aged 18 to 30, the dollar feels unbeatable. You grew up watching it dominate. World reserve currency, used in oil, used in global trade, backed by the strongest military, supported by the world's biggest banks. It almost feels like a superhero. The dollar has no kryptonite, right? But what if I told you this superhero has been running on a secret weakness for decades? And that weakness is simple. The dollar no longer runs on gold. It runs on trust. And trust is the most fragile currency in the world. Let me show you something almost unbelievable. 80% of all US dollars in existence were printed in the last 20 years. Pause. Let that sink in. Imagine your friend suddenly prints 80% of the Monopoly money right before the game starts. You'd be like, bro, we're not playing Monopoly anymore. We're playing your version. Pattern interrupt. And if you're thinking, so should I panic now or after this video? Relax. Not yet. But pay attention, because the next 5 minutes will shift your entire perspective. The structural crack, the one thing holding the dollar together, and why it's failing. The dollar is strong only because the world wants it. Countries buy oil in dollars, store wealth in dollars, trade goods in dollars, buy U.S. debt, bonds with dollars. This demand keeps the dollar valuable. But here's the cliffhanger. What happens when the world doesn't want dollars anymore? What happens when countries say, no thanks, we'll trade without the U.S.? Well, that's already happening. In 2024 to 2025, more countries than ever began reshaping the global money system. Quietly, slowly, strategically. And all those small steps, they are leading toward one giant shift. The silent rebellion. 40-plus nations planning a world beyond the dollar. Over 40 countries, yes, 40, have joined or applied to join financial alliances like BRICS+. Not because they hate the United States, not because they want war, but because they no longer trust one single currency to control global trade. They are building new trading systems, new payment networks, new financial alliances, gold-backed settlement systems, commodity-backed digital currencies. Think of it like this. If everyone in your neighborhood used your Wi-Fi for 20 years, and suddenly they all started installing their own Wi-Fi, you'd notice. And the dollar is noticing. Pattern interrupt. If this feels complicated, just remember one simple rule. When people stop needing your money stops being powerful. The shift, the triggers that could break the system overnight, the 3 shocks all happening right now. If the dollar were collapsing tomorrow, you wouldn't see it on the news. You'd see it in signals. And here are the 3 biggest ones. Countries dumping U.S. debt. Foreign nations are selling U.S. Treasury bonds at the fastest rate in decades. Why does that matter? Because buying U.S. debt equals trust in the U.S. economy. Selling it equals the opposite. And guess what? Countries like China, Japan, Russia, Saudi Arabia are reducing their holdings aggressively. That's a red flag. Shock. Inflation that won't leave. The Fed keeps saying inflation is cooling. But your grocery bills, rent, cars, insurance, tuition, they're screaming a different story. Inflation is not temporary anymore. It's becoming structural. Which means Your dollars are losing value faster and faster. The birth of an alternative currency several countries are now discussing creating: a commodity-backed reserve currency, a gold-linked settlement system, a multi-country digital currency, a non-dollar oil payment system. If this launches, the dollar loses its monopoly overnight. That's the moment everything changes. The 2025 wildcard, the confidence crisis. Currencies don't collapse because of numbers. They collapse because of psychology. When people lose confidence, everything falls apart. Fast. One announcement, one leak, one global shift, and trust disappears in 48 hours. Remember 2008? One weekend. That's all it took. Now imagine that happening. But not to banks. To the US dollar. Cliffhanger. And the most dangerous trigger? We haven't talked about it yet. That's coming in Act 3. Stay with me. Why young Americans are at risk if you're 18 to 30. This is your battlefield. College debt, rising rent, stagnant wages, shrinking dollar value, automation threatening jobs, but hidden in chaos is opportunity. The new money era favors the prepared. Act 3. The solution: how to survive and profit from the dollar collapse. 7. The real trigger experts fear. 5 minutes. The domino that starts it all. Here's the scenario no one is talking about. The Saudi oil announcement. Imagine the headline: Saudi Arabia will now accept any currency for oil. One sentence, one shift. Petrodollar system ends. Countries dump dollars, bond markets panic. Inflation spikes. Dollar plummets. This is the fastest way the dollar loses its crown. It's closer than most realize. 8. Survival blueprint. What you must do. 7 minutes. I don't want fear. I want action. Step 1. Hold real assets owned. Skills, digital assets, online businesses, cash flow streams, physical assets. Inflation destroys savings. It does not destroy skills. Build recession-proof income. Focus on high-value, future-proof skills. AI tools, automation, digital marketing, content creation, online business management. Step 3. Think like a producer. Consumers lose money. Producers make money. Money is oxygen. Consumers breathe it out. Producers create the tank. Invest where the world is going. Future belongs to AI and automation, digital economies, decentralized systems, remote work and creator economy. Knowledge greater than money. Discipline greater than luck. Final message. Your role in the new era. The dollar may weaken. It may fall. It may transform into a digital version. But you don't collapse. You adapt. History rewards those who prepare. Not the loud. Not the fearful. The prepared. The next 12 months won't just shape the economy. They will shape your life. Which path will you choose?